Links to you, John Champ, become a member here over at Subscribe. Thanks to everyone who has, especially Vegan and Frog. So Brianna Wu says that Hogwarts Legacy is a character test. Well, challenge accepted. She seems to hate everyone and everything, especially men for some reason. You can scroll through her Twitter. It's really some of these people. It's not just occasional sporadic episodes of them being bitter, miserable people. It's like the whole Twitter screen. You scroll through her and you're like, oh, you're just like, this is you. You're a hateful person. Like, you don't have up days. You just, everything is like I don't know, the Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu type of everything is a problem. And well, at least for Sarkeesian, she's always looking for a way to monetize it. So credit to her for being like, she's an honest grifter. She knows what she is. Like, you look in her eyes and you know she knows, and she knows, and everyone knows, like, she's just there to make a buck. Where Brianna Wu actually doesn't seem to be playing with a full deck. She doesn't seem like a real person so much as she is playing a character in her head, playing a role to her, what she thinks of as adoring fans. I think people were subbed to her because I don't know when it was Gamergate. That was before 2015, I think. And that's why they're subbed to her, probably because of a holdover from that was like 2015 feminism. It was a big deal a few years. Actually, now I guess it's quite a while. Feminism seems to have gone up its own back hole. It's got to be an awesome feeling to have that level of delusion instead of the crippling anxiety and depression that most of us feel on a daily basis. So the whitest of the white pills is that people are finally getting tired of mentally deranged SJWs telling normal people what to do. What happened to J.K. Rowling? She wrote some very popular books about a wizard academy called Hogwarts, sort of a Terry Pratchett for kids, made into movies and video games and spin offs and whatnot. Everything was fine. Then the Harry Potter universe was freaking huge. It was like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and then Harry Potter. But Harry Potter was for kids, so it's going to have potentially more legs because it was made to appeal to kids. And as they grow up, it's like pass it on to their kids. And really, she should have just kept writing or passed off those books to someone else to keep writing those things. Just continue the series. So everything was fine. Then the whole BLT thing started, and the cultural Marxist brainwashed kids into all believing all sorts of it's not a fad, Dad. It's like, well, clearly all this stuff is a fad. I mean, people go through these fads throughout history. You can look through all these other historical periods, and it's like every decade there's a fad. And don't you think a reasonably prudent person would look at what's going on now with this stuff and say that this perhaps is also a fad? No, 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 no. History be damned. This isn't a fad, but all that stuff was fads, or not. Whatever you want to do, knock yourself out. But like if you're under 25, you probably want to think twice about taking drugs or doing anything permanent. You may decide one day in the future that you want to have kids. Oh, I never want to have kids. Yeah, but older people are telling you. You're saying this when you're in your teens and 20. Older people are saying, yeah, you might hit like 25, 30, and a switch will, especially if you're female, a switch will flip, and this biological clock will just come pounding. You're like 28, and you're like, suddenly that have baby, have baby, have babies starts to click. You don't want to, for men too, but you don't want to do anything that gets in the way with that. Why would you? Why would you hurt yourself? Anyway, so most older people are going to tell you that you always want to maintain the option of being able to have kids. It's a really dark thing to push on the young people to say, oh yeah, you need to sterilize yourself to be who you really are. That's really challenging to talk about that, and not just Fed posts from outer space. So the other thing was that men were starting to intrude into female spaces, and most people prefer that men's spaces be for men and women's spaces be for women. Both sides need their own safe spaces. Men and women are different, which is probably going to get me put in the gulag one day if I keep saying that. But JK had liked a tweet. That's one thing that Twitter activists do. They will find out what tweets people like, because Mark Hamill just recently liked a tweet by J.K. Rowling, and that's enough to get him labeled a wrong thinker. And like the funny thing is, Mark Hamill and J.K. Rowling are both left-wing people. It's just they're not left-wing enough for these new current branch of cultural Marxists who are brainwashed. So she had liked a tweet by a woman's activist who was raising the issue of the difference in XX and XY, because there's a lot going on in the UK about. One of the examples was men are working in trauma centers for women who were abused by men, but if the victim said they didn't want to be treated by men, then they were kicked out. The whole thing is clearly insane. They were ignoring the feelings of women at trauma centers for the sake of political correctness. And I understand you hate women. I get it. But I mean, this is a little bit too overt, even for women haters. A few years from now, people are going to look back at this period and just call it the crazy years when people were so brainwashed by Weimar that they went along with all this madness. Kind of reminds me of the early days of the Bolshevik Revolution. So the weird thing is looking at Brianna Wu or Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian. They were, when was Gamergate? Was that like 2012 or something, 2014? And the rest, and looking at them and taking them seriously and thinking like, well, why are we listening to these, single cat ladies? The whole feminism thing kind of peaked and ended suddenly in 2015-16, soon as Trump was on the ticket, or he was seriously viewed as a contender, probably after he made the primaries, and like suddenly he's the guy and people look at him, the left wing starts to lose their freaking mind. And so all the energy kind of shifted to Trump, and feminism never really came back. And the thing is, because as it was going to suddenly start to come back organically, the BLT stuff got popular, and suddenly the new face of feminism literally had a beard. I did a video on Bit Chute and Odyssey about another historical parallel with Magnus Hirschfeld, who was writing books about these absolutely horrific experiments that he was conducting on kids. And the left wing considers him and that institute a hero, and it's a tragedy that his material was destroyed in fires. What what experiments he was doing on kids and what happened to those kids afterwards? Like, have you looked beneath the surface? Oh no, my college professor said it was the evil people who destroyed that material. Yeah, maybe look a little bit deeper, and perhaps don't trust your college professor. Perhaps don't trust the media or the government, or including the government schools. Anyway, so that's when the toxic alt left decided to cancel J.K. Rowling. They even sent stalkers to her house to harass her, a grandmother, because she said words on Twitter. To be fair, some people looked. There's these three guys who go, these activists. They go outside her house, and her address is visible in the background. And they said that people are looking at that and like, why are you going to this woman's house holding up signs with her address is visible in the background? That's a bridge too far. Men going to a woman's house is a dangerous precedent to set, and there were people on the left who spoke out against it because that it's I like the weird thing is that more people on the left didn't see that as the optics of this aren't good. It's like you're three big guys standing outside a woman's house with the address in the background holding up signs. Clearly that's a threat. Why would you do that? Because it's something that, I mean, you're not understanding boundaries. She said words on the internet. You engage on this space of the internet. You don't go to her house. That's deeply creepy. So some people spoke out up against it, but it's weird that like they didn't know that you didn't do that. Like, oh, of course we'll go to somebody's house and show the address in the background. Why wouldn't we do that? Because of the optics of it. Are you really not cognizant of that? Like, that's just completely over your head. And it comes down to it. You're dealing with a lot of people. A lot of people in these far left movements. They're broken, mentally ill people who, like, they really don't get that. They think they're fighting Hugo Boss in the streets, and like they're just shooting people in pickup trucks because their college professor told her that the fair skinned person in the pickup truck, the plumber, is their oppressor. And you're like, why would you? How deluded do you have to be to? Yeah, we're ignoring the bankers and the NGOs and the tech company heads. We're going after the plumber in a $65,000 work truck. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. It's like, welcome to being subverted. There was some Antifa group was it Atlanta or something, where some guy was in a pickup truck and he's looking for scrap metal to recycle, right? And so they Molotov cocktail his truck. They try to burn him alive. And you go, why would you do that? I'm like, oh, I don't know. He was just in the area, and it was like, we're building Cop Town here. It's like, so the guy's in a poor guy, or you can make a pretty good living looking at scrap metal, but just a guy in a pickup truck looking for scrap metal. You didn't have any reasonable belief that this guy was a threat to you. He was just a guy driving through the woods looking for scrap, and you threw a Molotov cocktail at him. And in your minds, that's a reasonable. One of those Antifa people actually had a shootout with the cops and got deleted. And then they have a night of rage. I don't know where, somewhere in Atlanta or somewhere. And like, so you're just like throwing rocks through business owners' glass windows? How does that redress your grievance? How does that advance your interests? Like, why wouldn't you go to the city council's office and peacefully seek legal redress of grievance, or the mayor's, or the governor's, or Like, why wouldn't you, or the bankers, the NGOs, is like, why don't you ever like speak truth to power? Like, why don't you ever go to the top and talk to the people who matter? Oh, because we're funded by those people. So we're going to throw Molotov cocktails at guys in Ford F-150s who are looking for scrap metal. That's weird. I mean, it feels like you're a puppet, right? And you look up, it's like, oh, why are these strings attached to us? Anyway, so this video game comes out. The Twitter weirdos want you to boycott it, except that nobody is boycotting it because why would they? It's a game set in the Harry Potter universe, and who the hell cares what Brianna Wu has to say about anything? Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for the recent support on Subscribe Star, and I'll see you guys all next episode.